Right, guys, welcome to this quick video. I've got Luke here. Welcome, Luke. We're going to be talking all things training at home and capacity today. So first things first, Luke, we need to know a little bit of the science. So what is the fick equation and why do people need to know about it?
Ace. So in the concept of kind of capacity, aerobic, anaerobic capacity, this kind of fick equation is a mathematical equation that basically outlines VO2, so volume of oxygen that you're consuming at any one time, and can be used to kind of estimate VO2 max. So it's kind of got two components here. So volume of oxygen is equal to cardiac output, which is essentially your heart rate times your stroke volume, and that stroke volume is basically about how much blood that left ventricle, that heart, can pump around your body. And then that's multiplied by essentially how much oxygen the muscle, the exercising muscle, can extract from the blood once it's been pumped there. So two kind of things in this equation that are going to affect that VO2. That's the cardiac output, heart rate, stroke volume, and then that efficiency of that extraction of oxygen from the arteries to the muscle. And we're going to chat about basically how to improve both of those at home, because obviously we're all stuck at home.
Yeah, perfect. So starting with cardiac output, simplicity, how do people improve cardiac output?
Boom. So to keep it nice and simple, to improve cardiac output, train. So there's two components to that. You've got the heart rate and you've got the stroke volume. And sadly, in terms of chronic improvements of heart rate, of max heart rate, we don't have that much of a pull over that. The thing that normally gets improved upon is this stroke volume, and this stroke volume, you kind of see it as training the heart and increasing the strength and power of that heart and how much blood it can physically pump around the body. And so that is why people have that have these really strong hearts, these really fit people have those low resting heart rates, because their body is so efficient, their heart is so efficient at pumping more blood around. So that cardiac output in that equation of heart rate times stroke volume is higher when their stroke volume is big. So that heart rate comes down and that resting heart rate. And ultimately, to improve that stroke volume, it's just like training any muscle, and it is exactly that. It's training. So it's making sure that you do train with an elevated heart rate consistently. That's the simple kind of thing, is train. And so with this kind of lockdown where we're at home, the most important thing that we want you guys to do is ultimately that. It's train. Just train.
Doesn't matter what kind, doesn't matter if we've got a rower, running, bike, we've got weights, we're doing just body weight stuff. It's just about chronically training.
Chronically training, getting that heart rate fired up, basically. That's the main thing. And then obviously, that's kind of, once you've established that you are going to train, then you can start looking more towards, okay, how is this training going to be more efficient to improve my aerobic capacity? What can we look at there? How can we sort of mix it up? But with this lockdown, obviously tempering expectations, the best thing to do is just train any way that is going to be consistent. Ultimately, it's that consistent training all the way through it.
Yeah, I think people can get a little bit overwhelmed with, aerobic capacity and, whether it's different zones I need to be focusing on, or hitting certain heart rates, or, doing lots of different kind of, variations. But actually, especially starting the year, let's just think about keeping it simple and just consistently training. Yeah. So exactly. Now we talked about cardiac output. We talked about, you mentioned oxygen extraction. Yeah, this stuff's super important. Tell us why people need to know about this and how we can improve it.
Cool. So this kind of is the way that it's written in this equation. I'm a mathematical person. My first degree was physics, so I like working with equations and numbers and then putting that into context. And so in the equation, it's written as oxygen being carried to the muscle in the arteries minus oxygen carried away in the veins. Yeah. That difference is basically how much oxygen the muscle has kind of stolen from the blood. And that kind of amount of oxygen is going to kind of contribute to the amount of energy that muscle can produce and the amount of work that it can do. So in this equation, that contributes to that maximum amount of VO2 that your body's using at that point in time. And obviously, the more efficient the muscle is at extracting that oxygen, the higher your VO2 is going to be, the higher your capacity is going to be, the more you can train, and the higher your performance is, the higher your capacity is. And that efficiency is kind of dictated by the powerhouse of the cell, the mitochondria. So there's a few things that kind of you can work to improve on from a physiological standpoint to improve this. So you've got the number and mass of the mitochondria. the efficiency of the mitochondria processing that oxygen. So that's to do with aerobic enzymes, and then capillary density as well. So those smaller blood vessels at the muscle, the more that you have there, kind of the larger the surface area is. So the more oxygen can be pulled from the blood into the capillaries, and there's more supplied to that muscle there.
Perfect. So you mentioned they're the kind of key elements of oxygen extraction. So how do people at home, if we're training, from a training point of view, how can we increase the mitochondrial efficiency, the density, the size? Like that's the kind of key thing that we need to kind of potentially focus on. How do people do that?
Yeah, perfect. And there's kind of two main ones within kind of the literature that I see, and they are long periods of continuous cardio. So you mentioned zones before. If you're talking about zones, this is going to be your zone 2, zone 3 work, where it's basically just sustained long periods of blood flow to the muscle, and that increases this capillarization. It increases this mitochondrial biogenesis, so it ends up producing more mitochondria and increasing that efficiency as well. And the other one is then high intensity interval training. So mixing it up in your training as well is going to bring about both those benefits. One thing that could be worth investigating as well is kind of the benefits of fasted training with those low, long, continuous sessions, and how that may improve that mitochondrial efficiency even further and kind of amplify those adaptations that you're looking for.
Yeah, perfect. So Luke mentioned there, doing long continuous training, doing a little bit of high intensity training, you're going to get the benefits of increasing the size, the efficiency, and the density, of your mitochondria. And that's the key. If you're going to just do one, then you're possibly going to miss a little bit of the benefits, from doing a bit more kind of high intensity stuff. So guys, look, we've got a opportunity here to potentially manipulate when we train a little bit more. So you could potentially kind of do some, more kind of fasted, running in the morning, training in the morning, rowing, biking, whatever you've got, to kind of tick that box, and then maybe do some kind of high intensity a couple of weeks. Maybe that's in a fed state, maybe that's later in the day, lunchtime, or whatever it is. You kind of fit in, to your schedule. I think we have the opportunity to do this, which is going to help your aerobic capacity long term. So, guys, I think it's a really good kind of insight in terms of look, this lockdown, let's get after it, and kind of, don't think in, to overcomplicate things. The number one thing to increase cardio output, just generally bloody training. But then you can go into in terms of the specifics, and that oxygen extraction is definitely something that we're going to focus on in future videos. Maybe delving into kind of fasted training as well, in a little bit more detail. Luke, anything else you want to kind of just touch on, give advice for people?
Yeah. Couple of things, obviously, just to kind of add to that, and the amount of oxygen that you're delivering to the muscle. One key thing from a nutrition point of view that I'm sure me and Liam will agree with is iron. And the thing that is actually carrying oxygen in the blood is this compound hemoglobin, which makes up for 70% of the body's iron source. So if you're deficient in iron, then that oxygen carrying from the blood to the muscle is going to be worse as well. So making sure that, when you're working to improve your aerobic capacity, if you're deficient in iron, then it's not going to be as big as it could be. And then other kind of nutrition things that we've talked about before are nitrates. So we've talked about kind of that improving that oxygen extraction and the efficiency there. What nitrates have been shown to do as well is, again, improve that mitochondrial efficiency, whereby more energy is produced per oxygen that is consumed. So you get more bang for your buck in that oxygen that you're taking in. If you're supplementing with nitrates as well, or getting loads of nitrate-rich food in your diet, we know that can really, really benefit that aerobic capacity as well.
Yeah, amazing stuff. So look, these are all the stuff that we can do at home, improving, basically improving the machinery. That's what we want to do in the body, and then providing it with some nutritional support. That's the kind of key things to kind of focus on. Nitrate-rich foods. I think iron is definitely overlooked, Luke, in terms of the importance of it. Now there is a lot of chat around kind of females, and obviously around the kind of menstrual cycle and whatever, but men, we need to kind of make sure that we're still getting adequate iron in, and potentially that's where a little bit of blood testing can be useful, but making sure that you're aware you're getting kind of iron rich foods in. And if you are experiencing general fatigue and really kind of struggling, especially in kind of aerobic based kind of sessions, you might be looking into dialing in a little bit more those kind of food choices to increase your iron. So it is about that kind of being a bit more aware, isn't it? And those two kind of things can really, really help with your aerobic capacity. So fantastic stuff, mate. Good. Well, I've done my low and slow continuous training this morning. Luke, have you been training this morning?
Not this morning, no. First day into the lockdown, and I'm taking it as a reset day to actually set my targets and do this kind of thing where I'm thinking, hey, what do I need to improve on? How do I improve on it? And get that plan in place and make sure I'm consistent with it.
Awesome stuff, guys. Luke, thank you so much, mate. Lots more coming from Luke. Gonna tap into that knowledge of his. So, guys, any comments that you have, pop them in the comments below, and we'll make sure to guide you in the right direction. Thank you very much.